if you've been limping for so long, limping is now your new normal. So you're not even remembering, I'm walking with a limp. And God is always watching you like, you're limping, but you forgot that you were hurt.
You ask people, hey, how are you? And they're like, oh, I'm good. You know, the family's good. The job is good. The career is fine. Everything's good. Mm-hmm. But it's like, that obviously definitely adds to your emotional climate. Mm-hmm. But that still doesn't necessarily speak to your internal conflict.
Mm-hmm. God was showing me the mess I've allowed in your life. I feel the Holy Spirit. The mess I've allowed in your life and the mess I've allowed you to go through, I'm also faithful to restore, because he's put me in some positions and some situations that it feels like, God, you're ruining my life a little bit.
You're saying what you said, and what just stood out to me is that God will sit you down to stand you up.
That's not how cool I said it, but that's absolutely what it is.
He'll sit you down, to stand you up.
Yeah,
because the way how you're standing is not going to be conducive for longevity.
Man, what's good? How you feel?
I feel good, man.
Yeah,
I'm happy to be here. I feel like we talked about this for a while.
Oh, yeah.
So it's cool to like sit down and actually be in it.
Yeah. We did actually, because I remember like loosely talking about this before we were like really talking about this for a while. I remember loosely, like way back when we were first talking and meeting, I was like, we need to do a podcast one day.
Bro, that was before, I remember it was like, I think our initial conversation.
Yes.
It was like on the onset of our initial conversation, you're like, we need to make this happen. Well, okay, yeah. And it was always funny because you'd be like, we'd always be like, oh, we need to connect. You'd be busy, I'd be busy. And we just both had this awareness that, okay, it's fine. It's going to happen at the right time.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's amazing to be here and to kind of see it like come into fruition.
Yeah, I always knew like, our friendship, the way it happened, I always knew for sure that number one, it was going to be long lasting. It was going to be around. But I knew that there was nothing to force or rush. I knew that we'd find each other or align in some way at the right time. And here we are sitting, cameras rolling.
They're rolling.
Yeah, we're doing it, man. This is dope. So I've asked everybody this question. I already asked you. I said, how you doing? You said, I'm good. I'm going to ask you again. How are you doing right now? If you have processed it or not, like just right now in this moment, how do you feel?
That right there, you just pulled one on me. Because I would do that. But I'm going to answer your question. But I would do that all the time. I was working at Lululemon in store, and I remember people would come in and they'd be like, I'd be like, how are you? And they're like, oh, I'm good. And to like actually slow them down, I'd be like, but are you though? I'm like, because there ain't no way that everyone that I'm talking to throughout this course of this entire day is good.
Yeah.
And so it's just funny you say that, because I'm like, dang, he just pulled one on me. Processing that question, thinking about it, I can truly say that I am good.
Amen.
And I only say that because I feel like about 5 days ago, I wasn't.
Yeah.
And so from that space.
Me too.
See, I'm telling you, every time.
Yeah.
From that space to now, I can genuinely and confidently say that I feel like I'm in a good space.
That's good. I love to hear that. And I think, because same thing for me. And I don't even know if the space is all the way clear or better, but I think my revelation of the space I'm in has changed. And my understanding of why I'm in this space has changed. And that has made me good. Even if I am not completely all the way good or a process is not finished, I just feel good knowing that like, okay, God, this is what you're doing. Like, I get it. That gives me peace. And I think it was the storm of why am I in this time? What's going on in this time that made me like super not good? Yeah.
That right there that's major. I'm telling you, bro. Like, I promise we don't be comparing notes, but for some reason, somehow, it's just God.
Yeah.
The best way I could frame it is, I think a lot of times it's easy to associate what you're doing with how you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times you ask people, hey, how are you? And they're like, oh, I'm good. You know, the family's good. The job is good. The career is fine. Everything's good.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, that obviously definitely adds to your emotional climate.
Mm-hmm.
But that still doesn't necessarily speak to your internal conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like we all have an internal conflict.
Yeah.
Internal conflict too. That's a whole other topic. But we have an internal conflict that we're dealing with. Like, hey, like, am I enough?
Mm-hmm.
What am I hurting from? What am I healing from? What am I going through? What am I struggling with?
Mm.
And a lot of times we mask, I would say, the things that are happening around us.
Mm-hmm.
And we what's the best way for me to phrase this? It's like, okay, it's like this. It's like getting a new car wash. You have your car, you get a car wash. It looks great, but the inside is a mess.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I just got a car. How are you? Yeah, I just got a car wash.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like the wheel. You saw the wheels. Them wheels shining, bro.
Mm-hmm.
The wheels look good. We got wax. It's beautiful. But like, yo, like, what's going on inside?
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time you had an oil change?
Don't look in the car.
When was the last time? Don't look under the hood.
Don't look under the hood.
When was the last time you had an oil change? When was the
Yeah.
last time you had a detail? When was the last time you vacuumed? When was the last time you wiped everything down? When was the last time you rotated your tires? Like, yeah, they look good, but what about the other side? You know?
It's gonna be one of these combos. I already know where I'm gonna be utilizing the prophet Google. I'm gonna utilize Google quite a bit.
It'll tell you everything.
You know what? I don't know why God does this to me. Actually, I kind of think I know why God does this to me. He drops words in my spirit that I don't know the exact definition of all the time, and I have to go Google it. But as you're talking, I was hearing the word reform, which is interesting. So it makes me want to go study it. The action or process of reforming an institution or practice, that's probably not the one. Make changes in something in order to improve it. An opportunity to reform. Yeah. So to make better, to improve, to better, to rehabilitate. It's interesting because as you're talking, we make sure everything on the outside is beautiful and polished so that we can showcase, we can put our best foot forward, as they say, which really isn't your best foot forward if the inside isn't healthy. But we don't reform and allow ourselves to be rehabilitated internally. So internally, we are confused, we're dying, we're in a storm, we're hurting, and we don't take time to really heal that and take care of that and clean that up. The junk that's there, it's like a dirty room. You just keep throwing stuff under the bed, but now it's pouring out from under the bed. And now it's not just under the bed cluttered, but it's under the bed and it has a stench. So now it stinks. And so you have to now go in and truly reform that whole area because it's just disgusting. It's not even a quick clean. And I think we keep spending effort cleaning the outside. The outside gets dirty, clean it again. Outside gets dirty, clean it again. The inside is now not just dirty, it's dying and decaying. And so I think it's so important that we, I'll just stop there.
Man, I'd say keep talking because so there's so much to unpack in that, which is unbelievable because I'll preface this by saying this. The word you got was reform. The word I've been living is restore.
Wow. I'm not shocked.
I'm not shocked either. You said it, and I was just like, when you said I was like, you gonna say the same word? I was like, oh my gosh. But
no, you know why?
It's go on.
I'll just tell you real quick. I'm not shocked because the last few days, God was showing me the mess I've allowed in your life. I feel the Holy Spirit. The mess I've allowed in your life and the mess I've allowed you to go through, I'm also faithful to restore. Because He's put me in some positions and some situations that it feels like, God, you're ruining my life a little bit. And even the phone call I just got and stepped outside with was one of the biggest forms of restoration that I've needed right now. And it just happened since you've been here. And I've been like, God, why are you letting this happen? You're supposed to be for me. And he just showed me, like, if I'm letting this happen, I'm building your faith, but also, am I not faithful to restore it all also? I can restore all this.
Bro, like, you need to, like, get out of my Bible time. You need to get out of my day. Like, I think it's like this. I would say it was probably a couple of months ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually a little bit longer than that. And I just started seeing, like, God was like, I just started becoming aware, that's where I'll put it,
mm-hmm.
of these issues in my life. Like, super aware.
Yeah.
Like, I'm almost like, that's kind of a problem.
Yeah.
You know? And as I'm seeing all these things, I'm like talking to my pastors who happen to be my parents. Pastor's kids, great.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. Sometimes you want to tell them, like, yo, this is going on with me. Like, as a kid growing up, like, yo, this is what's going on. I'm like, but am I gonna get my pastor or my parents? And it was always funny, like, delineating that, but they did such a good job of, like, separating the two, which made it feel like separating the two, but not. I don't really know how to describe it. Like, them being like, oh, you're like, we're gonna get you with the word. This is what you need to hear. And we're going to also show you love and correction.
Yeah.
But I feel like pastors do both of that anyway. So it was just interesting. I say that to simply say, I remember having this conversation with my dad and being like, hey, this is kind of what I'm going through. Like, what's up? And I was talking to my brothers and my friends and just people in my circle that I really feel like that have been in many ways the glue that God has used to keep me together. Right. And it's funny how God will use people as glue to keep you together in one season, but he'll also let those people be your unraveling to show you what's really going on within you. And so I remember just bringing this to them, like, hey, I'm going through these things. Like, I'm seeing these issues pop up in my life and I feel like I'm regressing. And I'm like, what is going on? And I remember just having this conversation with my dad and he was like, is it that you're regressing or is God showing you what was there and you didn't know? So you lived your life thinking, oh, I'm good. I'm straight. And God says, okay, well, I'm going to let you go through this season that's going to actually show you what's going on underneath the surface.
Yeah.
So you realize, and he didn't let that season happen just at any time because he knows you couldn't handle it if it happened early. If it happened too early, you'd be like, oh, I'm messed up. But he had to mature your mindset and your identity in him. So when he reveals it to you, you realize that it's out of love and not out of the fact like, oh, God's mad at me. God's angry with me. No, he loves it to reveal it to you. So long story short, I'm going through this season. I'm like, and God showed that to me. He's like, hey, it's not that you're regressing. It's, if anything, you're making so much progress that you're becoming uncomfortable with what you thought was okay.
Wow. Yeah.
And now what I need to do is I need to restore you, or we can use another synonym. I need to reform you.
Yeah.
I need to change your mindset, your way of thinking. But that's a whole process and there's steps to that. And that first process is awareness. I can't heal you if you're not aware that you're hurt.
Absolutely.
And so that's just why it freaked me out when you said that. I'm like, bro, this dude.
You know what's good about that is not even not aware, but you forgot that you were hurt. Because it's like if you've been limping for so long, limping is now your new normal. So you're not even remembering, I'm walking with a limp. And God is always watching you like, you're limping or you're still bleeding, because you might have gotten hurt or you might have gotten confused or you might have gotten detoured a little bit. And at first you were aware of it, but life is so busy and everything is so demanding of you that you didn't have the time to process what happened to you. So then you keep going, but you're still hurt and you're still broken a little bit in that area. So you forget about it because life is still demanding of you. You still got to work. You still being called to be used in this way. You still got to show up in this relationship with family, with church or whatever. But you're showing up in a state that you've now taken on as your new normal. So it's like God will see us like, you're limping, but you forgot you were limping. And after a while of watching us do that, when it is safe, when it is time, or he prepares a safe time to stop and to be aware of it. Because even if you were that busy, if you're still limping, I want to heal you, but you're still being used. It's like he waits for that time. When am I going to get him? When am I going to have still time with him? When is it going to make sense? And he prepares the time. And that could look like being sat down, or that could look like drawing back from friend groups. That could look like losing a job. That could look like anything. And it's like, okay, now I have time to reveal to you what's actually going on.
That's so powerful, because so before I really felt like I started this journey of restoration that God's been showing me in my life, he prefaced all of it with this scripture. He said, "Be still and know that I am God." And I remember someone gave me a word. They're like, "Hey, like, this is what God's telling me to tell you. Be still and know that I'm God." And I was like, okay. And then long story short, I remember I just had a bunch of people like just like sharing this word with me out of nowhere. I literally had a friend call me and he was like, "Hey bro," like, or he sent me a text. He was like, "Hey bro, I'm like doing this thing." And he's like, "I just heard God out of nowhere. I heard God tell me to be still and know that I'm God." And I'm like, okay, this word is just being echoed to me a lot. I go to London in April. I end up meeting a friend and we're talking, and she ends up telling me like how she came to Christ. And she's like praying like, "God, like if you're real, show me blah, blah." He shows her, and the word he gives her is be still and know that I'm God.
Wow.
So this word keeps, bro, I come back from London. My car was in the shop. I got into a car accident. I come back from London. I go to the dealer or the body shop on Monday, because I got back on Saturday. Yeah, on Monday I go to the body shop to pick up my car, and I go to pick it up, and the guy gives me the keys and everything. It looks great, and he's like, with payment, just paying cash. And I'm like, a little sus, but y'all did a great job, so I got you. So I had to come back Wednesday. Came back Wednesday, ended up talking to him, and he was talking to me about the process. He was also fixing my key, so they were waiting on that while he's talking to me. A client comes in, she walks in, she's like trying to get her Jeep fixed, and I ended up having this conversation with her and him, and just being myself, having a good time. And I told him, I was like, "Hey, afterwards I want to tell you something." He's like, "Okay, cool." So I go inside, and after the client leaves, and we end up having a conversation. This lady sitting on the couch, and she's like, "You have such a nice smile." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." Like, and she was like, "You have a nice smile." Oh, I'm all right, thank you.
Like, no, I mean it.
I'm like, yeah, I mean it. I need to be on a Crest commercial or something like that. And then the owner, he's like, "Yeah, like you have really like what is up with you? Like you're so bubbly, you talk to people, you have joy. Like what is going on?" And I told him, I was like, to be honest, it's like Jesus.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I'm like, I am literally my worst day when my worst day is when I'm not connected to him, and when I don't spend that intentional time to be with him. And then the lady was like, "I knew there was something about you. Like I knew you believed in like God or like a higher power." And she didn't even fully as the conversation progressed. I come to find out she doesn't even fully believe in Jesus. But she had done a lot of studyings about his teachings and whatnot. But long story short, she tells me in the middle of our conversation, random. She was like, "Yeah, you just have to know, like, he knows his source. And sometimes in order to know your source, you just have to be still and know that he is God." Bro, I'm not lying. I have this on my voice memos in my phone. I could play it for you right now. I told her, I said, "You said what?" I said, "Can you say that again?" Bro, I started recording it because I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And so I say all that to say, in that sentence, I didn't really get it. I'm like, be still and know that he's God. He's like, well, the first part is be still.
I'm seeing things that you're talking. Just keep going.
The first part is be still.
Yeah.
You don't even know what hurt you because you're running around. And maybe you do. But because it hurts so much to be still, you find more comfort in running because it's numbing.
Yes.
The running is numbing.
Yeah.
And so you try to find your healing in what you can do instead of who God's called you to be. But in order to accept who God has called you to be, you have to be still. And I remember during this process, as God's telling me, be still and know that I'm God. I want to restore you. I'm like, how does this all fit in this puzzle? And as I'm looking back, it makes a lot of sense. And I remember being in my room, I'm sitting with my Bible on my desk, and I'm praying. I'm like, "God, what do you want me to do?" And I remember he told me, he said, "Jeremy, it's not about what I want you to do. It's about who I want you to be." And I was like, what? And that changed everything for me, because then it showed me, oh my goodness, I need to be still.
Yeah.
So he can show me what's going on. Because the first part is be still. The second part is, and know that I am. That's a whole other conversation. That's what God calls Moses and tells him, hey, I am. That's how Moses goes to the children of Israel and says, oh, this is who he is. Right?
Yeah.
So be still and know that I am. It's not just that he's God. No, I am. Like, I am. I'm everything you need.
Yes.
If you need a healer, if you need a healer because you're broken, if you need a friend because you're alone, if you need love because you've experienced rejection, be still and know that I am. Yes. Whatever you need, I am God.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to let you pick up from there because I want to know what your thoughts are.
I mean, there's so many. It's just like, it's like how I read scripture. I always try to ask the questions. And when I'm listening to what you're saying is, why does he want you to know so bad or be so reminded that he's God? Why does he keep saying, be still and know that I'm God? Know that I'm God. Why does he want you to know that so bad? And with me also, I like to think ahead. So now I'm thinking, I must be about to go through something where I'm going to have to really remember who's taking me through it. And I'm also going to have to trust the one who's taking me through it. And it's like, I get this picture of like, when you talk about running and being numbing and needing healing, it's like when you get hurt and someone's approaching your wound, especially when it's just anybody, you brace and you get back. Don't touch it.
It hurts.
It hurts. Back up. And it's like, be still, stop running, and know that I'm God. And it's like he's slowly approaching to help you with that wound. If you had a splinter, he's slowly approaching to pull the splinter out. But if you don't know that he's God, he's safe, he's trustworthy, he has perfect vision of you, he has perfect understanding of your situation, he knows how to handle you delicately, he knows what's best for you. If you don't know who he is when he's approaching you, he's the healer, he's the restorer, he's the provider, he loves us more than anything. If you don't know that when he's approaching you, you will keep walking away and keep running and keep bracing. Hey, not just be still, but I'm God. Know that I'm God. Oh, you're God. Yes, obviously. Yeah, I know you're God, but listen, know that I'm God.
Come on, bro.
Oh, you're God. Yes, I know you're God. I've always seen you heal for me, provide for me. You've always had the best plan for me. You've always been safe. Like you've been all these things. Exactly. Don't just know that I'm God. Know that I am God. I'm your God. I'm your Father, the one you've always known, the one you've always trusted in. That's who I am. And if you don't know that about me, I'm God. Go do your research. Who is God? Well, you can find out who God is, and you'll find all those same things that I just said, whether you experienced it or not. And so be still, stop moving, and just remember who I am. Because when I deal with you also, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt when I pull that splinter out. It's going to hurt when I bandage that wound. And if you don't remember who I am, you're going to think I'm hurting you. You're going to think I'm inflicting pain on you. But I'm not inflicting pain on you. I'm trying to heal you. So if you just think there's just some guy or some person coming to approach me to handle me, you won't trust it. And then when you feel pain, you'll take it personal.
Bro, I think the best way for me to frame it and put it is this thought. Well, two things. The first thing is, you said it's either something that God's bracing you for something that you're about to go through. And for me, he was showing me something that I was already in. I think he says, be still and know that I am God. Be still. Stop trying to control.
Yes.
Be still and know that I am God. I'm in control.
Yeah.
I've got this. It's not on you. It was never on you. I remember one time he told me, he said, Jeremy, everything I've ever done in your life is simply because I love you.
That's it.
And that broke me in half because it showed me I don't have to run and make things. I just have to be. I have to be where you don't have to tell a child, be my child. No, they just are your child.
That's who they are.
That's just who they are.
Yeah.
So then it becomes also an awareness of your identity.
Exactly.
Be still and know that I'm God. Okay, so if you're telling me that you're God, then who am I? It puts me in my place. But I could look that I can think, oh man, like, okay, well, I'm nothing, which is a quite fair estimation of ourselves. We are quite nothing. Mm-hmm. But yet to God, we're everything. Mm-hmm. So much so that he'd send his son to die for us.
Absolutely.
Be still and remember what I've done.
Mm-hmm.
Another way to put it is be still and know who I am.
Mm. Absolutely.
Because you're calling me God, but do you really know who I am?
No, exactly. Mm-hmm. Because your vision of him can get corrupted along the journey. And that's why I think you need to be still in every season. Because if you're not still through the season that he takes you through,
that's major. Then
you're going to be like, oh, well, I trust God. But do you really trust God? Because there's a few disappointments you experienced and you equated them to God and him not having a covering over you. So you don't trust God the same. Oh, God is my healer. Do you really believe that still? Be still with yourself, because there's some things that you didn't heal through yet, and you believe that God allowed those things into your life and brought you through them. And so you almost feel like he's not worried about that healing as well. So you have to be still in the seasons. Otherwise, your vision, your perception of God will start to be warped because of what you experience, knowing it's also by his hand, or knowing that it's also in his presence. Like he's watching you go through these things. And I know that my intimacy with God changed when I went through a few tough things. And I did blame him, because I'm like, you let me go through that and you led me into it. So I know I trust you in your word, but also I did experience this with you. But if I'm knowing he's God, I'm knowing that he has plans to prosper me and not to harm me, then I wouldn't assume that he did that to hurt my feelings, but I wasn't knowing he's God.
Well, I think also, one of the questions that I started exploring in my head was, okay, I know you're good, but are you good to me? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Like, I know you're good. I know you're God. I'm not out here looking at the universe and I'm like, no, Jesus, that's who it is. Mm-hmm. But are you good to me?
Yeah.
Because you see me hurting and you see me in pain. Mm-hmm. But what are you doing about it?
Right.
And if you're a good father, why are you allowing me to go through something that feels so grotesque? Mm-hmm. And what it honestly feels like this wrestle.
Yeah.
You're wrestling with God.
For sure.
You're literally you're throwing hands with him. You're like, and you're not really doing any damage really, which is just funny because we view ourselves as the center of our universe and we're so important, but to him we're dust. And so the very fact that we can have an audience with God to even feel like we're wrestling with him is astounding in and of itself. But we're wrestling with him and we're like, in my head, I'm going back and I'm remembering all these things that he's done in my life. And I'm like, okay, you're good.
Yeah.
But what is going on?
For sure.
And I think that's a healthy thing to do, to be like, you're good, but what is going on? If I don't ask myself that question, do I really ever get to understand the character of God?
Yeah.
Because if I don't ever sit still enough to be like, okay, you're good. I get it. I've thought it through. But what is going on?
What you're saying right now is powerful. You're good, but what is going on? You're searching for understanding. If God is saying, be still and know that I am God, he's clearly showing you, I already have all the understanding perfectly laid out. I'm Alpha and Omega, beginning and end. I've seen every single thing, but also I've always made it good because it's who I am. Good does not look like how it feels. Good does, like, it might not feel good, but it could still be good if it's coming from God. And so if you're saying, I know you're good, but what's going on? You're searching for understanding so that you can not only understand your situation and what I'm doing, but understand how I'm being good in it.
Makes sense of like, you're trying to make sense like, okay, I get it. And I think really to anyone who's asking that question, like, okay, God, you're good, but what's going on? You have to remind yourself of all the things God has brought you through, even when it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
because that is what allows you to be like, okay, wait, I've been here before.
Mm-hmm.
And because I've been here before and God's been good to me before, I can look back and realize that, hey, if he did it back then, I believe he's going to do it again.
Yes.
And it might not make sense how he does it this time, but that doesn't mean that his character changes just because I don't understand his ways.
Mm-mm. Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's what it's been like. And you think about this idea of wrestling with God. You think about Jacob.
Yeah.
He's wrestling with God, and he's before he wrestles with God, to be quite honest, he sends his brother's trying to kill him, or he thinks his brother's trying to kill him, and he sends all his possessions and stuff across to the river to like appease his anger, so to speak.
Yeah.
And God gets Jacob all alone. I love the scripture. It says he was left alone.
Mm.
He was left alone. And it says afterwards, he was left alone and a man wrestled with him.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of times in our life, we looked at I was left alone and we put a period there. I was left alone. They left. It didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
I got fired.
Mm.
Someone got sick. I got sick. Whatever your word is for that space, you got to look at that.
Yeah.
Because what is God trying to do in that?
Mm-hmm.
That's what he was showing me. Like, okay, and Jacob was left alone.
There's always more.
There's more.
Yeah.
And a man wrestled with him.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, God, I'm left here. But you say, be still and know that I'm God.
Mm-hmm.
You're inviting me into a wrestling match.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing.
Not with someone who just wants to harm you, but with God.
Not with someone that wants to harm me, but with someone who wants to heal me.
Absolutely.
So you're inviting me into this wrestling match, and we're going at it. And I don't know who I'm wrestling with at first. Jacob didn't know who he was wrestling with at first.
No. He's like, a fight just came out of nowhere.
Out here on some WWE.
Like, what's happening?
John Cena
yeah.
throwing it down.
I was chilling.
Yeah. Like, what is... But God had to get Jacob alone.
Yeah.
What did God do? What did God do to get Jacob alone? He allowed a situation to arise.
Mm-hmm.
His brother's trying to come after him. And
Yeah.
he's like, oh, I got to get all this. I gotta appease his anger. I got to do all this stuff.
Mm.
God's like, this is not about Esau. This is about you.
God was watching an identity crisis play out. And he's like, I need to get him alone. Like we talked about, the prepared space. When can I heal you? When can I get to you? I'm going to prepare a time. I'm going to prepare a space where I can actually access him and deal with that thing. And for him, it was being alone. And for us, it can be some sort of circumstances arising where we have more space, more time, or because a lot of times people think that when they go through something, or they get, let's say you're an athlete and you get hurt and you have to sit down, it's the worst thing in the world. Yes, it sucks for sure. But then also there's so much that you do in that time. There's so much that you get to see differently. There's so much you get to work on, and it just sits you down. There's sometimes that we go through hard things to sit us down for a second so that you actually can hear. And that's been my thing, is I don't want to be sat down or chased down by God. I want to be still enough to where he doesn't have to force me into this horrible natural situation where like I just have to do nothing but sit here and listen to God now. Like, no, I want to be still and be in step with him. Because my thing for me is I always get sick when I'm not being still. I'll get sick. And this happened earlier this year at the height of some of my best jobs, my biggest jobs. I also was being told, you need to rest. And then I actually said no to some things I really wanted to do, a couple of jobs and events that would have been really cool that I wanted to experience, because God said, no, you're not going right now. And I got COVID. And he knows what that means to me. Is in California, I never get sick. And when I lived in Omaha, Nebraska, I was sick every year, multiple times a year. You get the cold, you get the flu, you get strep, you get bronchitis every year.
Oh,
and that's
man,
just what happens. That's just what happens. You get it
the
all.
whole kitchen sink.
At some point in the year, you get it all because the weather changes and all that. But out here, I don't get sick. I've only gotten sick when I was run down, I was hurt and needed healing, or I wasn't being still and not resting and not listening for God. So he would make me sick. So I had to be still. So he would literally prepare a space to then work within. And yeah,
that's powerful. That's powerful, because you're saying what you said, and what just stood out to me is that God will sit you down to stand you up.
That's not how cool I said it, but that's absolutely what it is.
He'll sit you down
Yeah.
to stand you up.
Yeah.
Because the way how you're standing is not going to be conducive for longevity.
Absolutely.
So you're standing.
How long do you limp until you're in a wheelchair? You wearing that leg out.
How long does the muscle have to decay for you to realize that you need a miracle?
Yes.
So he sits you down out of love to stand you up. He wrestled with Jacob out of love. See, when you look at God through the lens of love, when he said, Jeremy, everything I've ever done in your life is because I love you. That's not just things that he's done. It's also things that he's permitted.
Yeah.
And it's in that place of us not understanding, but still seeking out what it is that God wants to do.
Yeah.
He starts to draw us closer to him.
Yeah.
Because we don't understand at first, but then it's a trust fall. This test is a trust fall.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And you can either fall with no worry in the world because you know who's going to catch you, or you can keep doing what immature children do. You fall and you look, you kind of stop yourself and you look back, but you don't experience it.
Yeah.
You don't experience the intimacy and the trust that will be built in the fall.
Being caught.
By allowing him to catch you and say, hey, I've been here the entire time. But we like to fall halfway and we're like, no, on some Tom and Jerry, you know what I'm saying? We like to fall halfway and just kind of stand back up. And God's like, if you would just fall into my arms, I would allow you to sit down to stand you back up.
Absolutely. We deny ourselves from experiencing so much of God because of trust and fear. I'd say you don't even get to see the loving catch or experience the loving catch of God because you don't even trust him to fall. You don't even trust him to take care of you. For me, to make it personal, God has had me asking people for things this last month, asking people for help, asking people for help in my career, asking people for money in different areas. He's had me asking, and he started by saying, text this person and ask, call this person and ask. And I'm like, why? I don't want to burden that person. Like, you always provide for me. Why don't you just do it? Like, why, like, do something. Like, I'll do anything, whatever you want me to do. But he's like, it's not about you and all this stuff. He's like, ask. Why? I want you to see how much favor you have. It's exactly what he said. Ask so you can see the favor you have. And so when you think about, now I understand the favor that God has put on my life and given to me as his gift. It's like Jesus is like, we need a donkey to get to this place. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, what did we do when they say, where's your money for it? He said, tell them the Lord has need of it. And then next thing you know, they brought that donkey back. The Lord had need of it. That was favor. It came to him. And it's like God was showing me, like, I want to show you this moment to show you that you have favor.
Wow.
In a moment where I actually feel very unkept and unfavored, he's trying to show me you have favor. I actually feel very unhealed and very hurt, and I don't feel safe or protected, but I'm going to try and I'm going to show you, you are protected. You are safe. I can heal you. And we deny ourselves from experiencing so much of him because we don't let go. We have this grip, and we have the way that we want it, how we want to experience it because of what looks best and what we would know in our own minds to feel best.
I think it's also, that's so unbelievable. I think it's also God saying, ask because I'm going to show you I've already had the answer. Like
and that's good because I was asking too shallow, or I was asking in a way of how I've already known him. This is how it must happen because this is all you've done. And he's like, no, I can do it so many different ways.
I feel that.
Yeah.
I genuinely feel that because in our minds, I believe we get to this place of growth where we've seen God move in so many ways. And like, okay, well, God, you'll use this, you'll do this, you'll do that. As this, I've seen you move. But he's like, yeah, I want to do something new. And if you're not learning something new about me, then we're not growing in relationship. And if we're not growing in relationship, I learn and am learning in my life. When I'm not growing in relationship with people, I think it's oftentimes because I'm not asking the right questions.
Yes.
I had a friend, he was telling me, he's like, bro, like what's going on in your life? I'm like, that's a terrible, like, where do you want me to start? Like, I could
a lot.
Where?
Yeah.
But there's something about someone that can just ask you the right question. Like, how's your heart feeling? And not in some religious, like, hello, brother, how's your heart? Like, no, like, it's just like, yeah, like, how's your heart feeling? Like, how are you? Like, how you started this off? Like, the whole reason we're having this conversation, and the reason why you're getting to know me better and I'm getting to know you better in this space is simply because you asked a genuine question that came from a genuine place.
Absolutely.
And it goes to show that God's not afraid of our questions. The question is, where are our questions coming from?
Yeah.
If your question's coming from a place of just hurt and anger with God, will he answer it? Yeah, because he's God and he's not afraid of your questions. But there's also a place of humility even in your pain. Yeah. And saying, why is this happening? And what are you trying to show me in it? The tone is different, but the truth remains. The tone is, God, why are you letting this happening? What are you trying to show me? I'm angry, but can I really receive angry? I mean, I can. Yeah. But I don't think I can receive as much. And so in that process of me being still, or in other words, letting go and knowing that he's God, that's a whole other conversation. Oh, yeah. Because when I'm still enough, I realize he is God, so I don't have to hold on. So the next step is to let go. But now I'm in this place where I'm like, God, what are you? Okay, I'm tired of I'm angry with being angry. I'm tired of being tired. Real. Yes. So okay, show me what's actually going on here. And then God's like, okay, cool, let's start. Exactly. It's that question thing, man. It's like when you said that, it's so deep. It's where your question's coming from. Who told you were naked? Like it's like that. It's this. Oh, you can't just move on from that. it's one of those situations. Yeah, because they were afraid because of their consciousness of being naked. I just think there's something all up in that, and I don't know if you see it. I just feel it, so I brought it up. But when you say where are your questions coming from, you're asking me this question, and I can't even just answer this question. I can't even just address this thing because I see beyond it, and you're asking me because of, you know what I mean? You're asking me because I'm about to do a backflip. And I don't even know how to do a backflip. I want to see that, actually. I don't even know how to do a backflip. I'm about to do it right now. I want to see that backflip. Well, it's this. As you're saying, I can see it as clear as day. Mm-hmm. Who told you were naked? Mm-hmm. Because you were never supposed to know that you were naked. Yeah. Okay. Now let's look at this in a different context. Who told you weren't enough? Mm-hmm. Who told you that you had to be this way? Yeah. Who told you that your life could never turn around? Mm-hmm. Where are your questions coming from? Yes, exactly. So God asked us a question, not because he doesn't know the answer. We know that. Mm-hmm. But he asked us a question to show us where our question is coming from. Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Because how I see you, God's like, you're a daughter or you're a son. Mm-hmm. So any root, the root of that question is now bearing fruit in your life that's causing you to be insecure, anxious, nervous, afraid, unaware, feeling like you have to run around because you're not healed. Where is that question coming from? Now, when I realize where the question's coming from, I come back with a better question. Yes. Okay. Assess too. You checked yourself out. I can only come back with a better question because now I'm questioning where the question came from. Yeah. Okay. Wait. Oh, you're right. I'm trying not to laugh because he's asked me some questions and I remember the places I was asked these questions. I don't even remember what he's told me. It's written in my notes for sure. But I literally have a specific spot where I was asking God some questions, like coming to him in this way. And he asked me a question that made me not talk for 5-10 minutes. I was like, whoa, because it hit me so hard and it bypassed everything that I was truly asking and got to the root of it. It's like, this is why you're asking that thing.
because you're dealing with this and you're feeling this and you're thinking this. And so you're asking me a question like this. So you don't get it. You don't even know what you're asking. Like, it's like, you don't even know. Yeah.
I think a lot of times we don't even know why we're asking what we're asking.
Mm-hmm.
I will even go on to say we don't even know why we're thinking what we're thinking, which is dangerous then, because a thought is an action unborn. Mm-hmm. So if I'm living on autopilot and I don't know where my thoughts are coming from and I don't know where my questions are coming from, I don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
And I'm just doing.
Yeah.
And that's why he says, be still
Mm-hmm.
and know that I am God.
Yeah.
Sit down. Get off of autopilot. I want to show you some things.
Mm.
I want to help you to heal. But I can't tell you that you need to heal if you don't know that you're hurting.
Absolutely.
Because you're numb and you think that you're whole. And it's actually scary because God's been showing me this in my life, that being numb is dangerous.
Oh yeah.
Because being numb is thinking that you're whole until it hurts again.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, but I've healed from this. No, you were numb. Oh, I'm fine now. No, you were numb. Because
you
if
can't
you were
feel
healed
it anymore.
If you were healed, it wouldn't keep coming back up.
Yeah.
Obviously, we still have struggles. We have things that happen.
This is good.
But you ain't telling me that you had something torn,
mm-hmm.
right? And you go and you get surgery for it. It heals, and you're living healthy. You're good. And the only reason it tears again is if you exert obviously unnecessary force or however, whatever.
Yeah.
But when you're healed, you're not thinking, oh man, that thing is still torn.
Mm-hmm.
That thing is still torn. If you get surgery and the doctor tells you this is 100% healed, you're good. You need to now walk out this process of physical therapy.
Mm.
If in your mind you keep thinking, oh no, well, it still really hurts. That's not how that works.
No.
Now the healing process hurts, and that we'll jump into that because that's a whole that we got to talk about that.
Absolutely.
But a lot of people, myself included, God was showing me, God's like, yo, you're numb.
Yeah.
And it took a situation of me being like, oh my gosh, I need to heal from this.
Yes.
And when I realized that I was healed from it, it didn't hurt anymore.
Mm.
That's how I knew that I was healed from it.
When you realized you were healed from it.
It didn't hurt anymore.
Mm.
Now, that's the thing. Healing hurts.
Yeah.
So for me, okay, you get cut open, trying to figure it out, get put back together. That's a wound that's healing. Mm-hmm. And it hurts to move it. But in time, if you treat it correctly, you go through physical therapy, it won't hurt anymore.
Yeah.
And then you got to work on the flexion. You got to make sure you get the range of motion back.
The rehabilitation of it. Uh-huh.
The reformation.
Absolutely.
You want to put it?
I mean, we might as well. That's the word.
In this process that you were talking to me about.
Yeah.
And you were talking like, hey, are you good? It started this entire conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I realized that I really needed to sit down.
Yeah.
And be like, God, what's up?
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about this. Let me ask my questions. Let me be genuine about this. I'm not angry. I just want to know what's going on. Because life right now looks different than what we talked about.
For sure. Yeah.
And that's fine. I think I was trying to understand. Like, okay, you showed me this. But the problem is that oftentimes God doesn't show us how we get there.
Mm-hmm.
He just shows it. Oh, yeah, you're going to be here. Because if God showed you the steps you have to take to be there.
I say this a lot. You wouldn't do it.
You wouldn't do it.
You wouldn't do it. If God said, I have this for your life, but you will have to go through this to get there, you wouldn't do it.
Joseph, you're gonna be a second in command of Egypt. Joseph, the sun, stars, and the moon, they're gonna bow to you. It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
Joseph's telling everybody.
Of course.
That's the end goal.
That's where you're going.
That's where you're going.
That's great.
You don't see the pit.
Joseph, you're gonna go to the pit. You're gonna go to prison.
You don't see now you're a slave, but you're second in command, but then you're gonna be accused. Mm-hmm. When she was the one who was coming at you, Because she was like hot girl summer. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then you go to prison. But even in prison, you're in charge of all the prisoners?
Yeah.
Because that's confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, God, I'm doing this. And I see your favor in the place I feel fatigued.
Mm. Promised land. Promised land sounds great. But what did it take to get there?
We got to leave what we've known.
Mm-hmm.
Because people talk about, oh, they crossed the Red Sea. No, they didn't want to leave at first.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This is different. What? But then they start seeing God. Oh, God's in this? Okay, let's start moving. They start moving.
Yeah.
But then even when they get out of Egypt, they start forgetting. Oh, we remember we had good food there.
For sure, right?
It was a good time there.
Because they're so focused on the wilderness. You know, the wilderness was like overtaking them. Yeah.
But then what was the question? What are you doing in the wilderness, God?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I need to start asking better questions.
Yeah.
And not just, I think a lot of times we sit with the things in our head and we don't talk about it. And that's why I think it's important to talk with people that are in your life that are designed to help you grow.
What's a better question for that moment than what are we doing in the wilderness?
I think the better question is, who are we becoming in the wilderness?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because who you're becoming in the wilderness will show you and answer why you're in the wilderness.
But you'd only ask that because you have a perception of God that he has purpose behind what he does. So you know, if you have me in the wilderness, you must be doing something because you have intention and purpose behind everything you do. So you must be developing me. You must be shedding something off of me. You must be trying to get me alone so you can speak to me. You must be doing something because I'm definitely in a wilderness, but you're here and you actually called me to it. So instead it's, what are we doing here? Why are we here? Don't you realize we were better taken care of there? Because that's all they could see. So we were great there. Like we had this. You're not seeing that you're slaves, and I call you my people, and I'm calling you to freedom. And I'm giving you a promised land. I'm keeping promises to you. You don't see any of that because you only see what you see. And so the question is fueled by confusion. It's fueled by
anger,
fear. It's fueled by doubt, all kinds of things. But instead, if you knew who God was, you would ask a way different question. And you'd humble yourself under the mighty hand of God to give you scripture. And in due time, he'd lift you up. But you would humble yourself and you would know, okay, you're God. Something's going on I don't know about. And I don't know why, but I just know you have purpose in some way.
Come on. I think to go off of that, they could have realized, who were we in Egypt?
Who were we in Egypt? Who was I that you didn't leave me there? How was I walking that you would call me out of that moment completely? Like, what kind of friend was I being? What kind of man was I becoming that you would separate me entirely from the whole entire environment that was building my identity? It clearly wasn't sustainable. It clearly wasn't what you built, because if it was, you would have kept building there. But instead, you took me away to then kind of tear me down and to start rebuilding. Was I building with parts that you didn't authorize? What started to happen that you had to take me away or wreck the situation? And then I saw you wreck the situation and I said, God's mean to me. And God's saying, be still and know that I'm God, because I only wrecked the situation because it needed wrecking. Like it legit needed a wreck because it wasn't building properly anymore. And it would have fallen anyways, because I think about this, even if your foundation is strong, let's say the first 5 floors is strong, but let's say you have a 100 floor tower. If after 5, the foundation is kind of bad, it still is going to fall, but it'll only fall down to 5. So you have good foundation, but after the 5th floor, it's all bad floors. So I got to wreck that and give you good floors all the way. So we talk about foundation, but also wherever that foundation changes, it still needs wrecking. Because the tree might be good, but why are we pruning? I'm pruning things that bear much fruit, but the pruning still needs to happen. I need to cut that thing back. I need to maintain it. so that it keeps being good. Because if I don't, now it's growing wild. Now it's doing things it's not supposed to do. Now it's not as effective as it should be. And so even pruning things that bear much fruit, I'm pruning something that's good. It's actually good. It's not even you're bad and you're experiencing a wrecking. It's good. You're my son. You're my daughter. I love you and I see your life. It is good that I do this to you. I'm seeing that you are bearing fruit and I'm going to actually prune you because of that. I've never thought of that scripture in that way, but he's doing it because it's a good thing to do. You should do that.